everyone, and welcome to News and Views for May the 22nd, 2025. Plenty of news for you today and a few views later on. We are coming up on our town fair weekend. So I want to give a little bit of a rundown on what you can expect going on this weekend, as well as other events happening around the same time period. It is the 10th annual Chamber of Commerce Fair, which doesn't mean we've only had 10 fairs. Just since the fair was resurrected, it has now been 10 fairs. And it looks, I don't want to jinx this, but it looks like we're going to have beautiful weather for once, unlike the snow we had last year. So I encourage everyone to get out there and enjoy the fair. A few highlights of things that are happening. The Midway will open tomorrow. That is Friday the 23rd at 4 p.m. On Saturday, you will have a pancake breakfast, townwide yard sale. You can pick up maps for that at the town office. A day of play for kids, pony rides, old-time dinner and dance, and the first, hopefully annual, color run being run by Rotary The New Wave, which is happening out at Park Lake. Then on to Sunday, we have early Sunday morning. We have the Spring Fever bike races at the High Life Back 40, and we also have, as part of the fair, the reptile gardens are happening on Sunday. So throughout the weekend, tons of things to do in town, tons of things to get involved with. And of course, there are other things happening this weekend and starting today, really, as well. Tonight, there is here in town the end-of-year concert for four groups that we have: the community choir, choraliers, hymns, and also being joined by the NACI choir. Also tonight, out in the Carberry area, there is a protest being held regarding the intersection and what people would like to see happen with it going forward. Happening same time tonight, 7 p.m. down in Carberry at the intersection of Highways 5 and 1. And then looking kind of forward onto Monday is the groundbreaking for the first Habitat for Humanity home. So right from today, right through the early next week, every day things are happening. Now, as far as this past weekend, here's where the news element comes in here for today. I'm sure everyone's wondering for a few more details on the water main break that we had that happened on Saturday. Denise Kay was able to provide a bit of a timeline about how things happened, when they happened. They were first alerted of the break on Saturday evening, and town staff and contractors were on site within 2 hours to start work on it. The water main break, and there were actually two breaks, were in the raw water line. So that is the untreated water coming into the plant. So the break was never in the treated water going out to residents in the community. And then they worked through the night, including driving to Winnipeg after midnight and back for parts. The first break was finished by 9 a.m. on Sunday, the second by 1:30, and then water service was restored to the plant by early evening. We were somewhat fortunate in that it was a long weekend, and therefore High Life was not working at their full capacity, and as well, a lot of people were gone for the long weekend. So I want to emphasize here, and as I've been told by town staff, that the rationing that the town did over the weekend did make a difference. Under an ordinary usage pattern, we would have run out of water by Sunday morning. And as it happened, we actually made it last long enough to get the repairs done well into Sunday evening. But according to town staff, we did come in probably within an hour or two of running out of treated water. Had that happened, the town would have immediately gone into a boil water advisory, and there would have been days, if not more than a week, to do all the necessary steps to get out of that again and onto regular water service. So we came very close to catastrophe, and kudos to the town staff and everyone who got that done as quickly as they did. We are all very grateful for that. And then very grateful that we have water service again. I know for myself, I was very glad to have a shower at the end of that. So there are a few other things I want to bring people's attention to that are kind of going on right now in an ongoing basis. This is something we talked about last week. There is the Business Retention and Expansion Survey coming out from the Economic Development Office. This started this week, will be going on for 3 weeks, where businesses will be being contacted by a third party to answer some questions about ongoing operations, needs, challenges, all that sort of stuff. And we, as I talked to Marilyn Crew about this and learned a bit more about it, it does seem to be very important to get this data from a wide cross section of the town to be able to make plans for the future about what resources are needed, what land is needed, what training is needed, all that sorts of things. So hopefully people are aware this is coming. They will answer the call, they will answer the email, and we will get the data that we're looking for. As well, of course, we talked about this last week. The town council is seeking to fill one of their seats. There will be a by-election happening on July the 16th. And nominations for that vacant position will be accepted at town office. That will be between June 4th and 10th during regular business hours. So that is everyone's sort of encouraged to consider that. It is, of course, a shorter commitment than running for a full 4-year council term, but no less important to fill that position on council. So if you are considering it, there is an information package available at the town office, as well as the nomination papers and everything that is needed to run for council. So now to what is actually elsewhere on the show today. We were down at the band concert that happened at NACI just yesterday. I have a few clips of that on the show today to share with you. And then a full version of that concert, of course, elsewhere in our schedule. And then coming up on future shows, of course, this weekend and going into next week, all sorts of activities happening. So we will certainly have a full slate going forward. However, if you have something else that's going on, something you want to make us aware of, or something that you have filmed that you want to share with the community, please do get in touch with us. You can reach us at 204-476-2639 or by email nactv@wcgwave.ca. Thanks and enjoy the show.
Good evening. Welcome to our 2025 NACI Spring Band Concert. We're so excited to have you here today. The students have been working really hard all year, and we can't wait to show you all of their musical development. So before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the Beautiful Plains School Division operates on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe people on Treaty 1 and 2. Beautiful Plains School Division respects the spirit and intent of the treaties that were made on this territory. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with the Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Hello everyone, my name is Martin and I play the trumpet.
And I'm Sienna and I play the flute, and we're going to introduce the next jazz piece.
Tank. Tank is an exciting opening for the anime Cowboy Bebop, composed by Yoko Kanno in 1998. The Seatbelts performed it. The show Cowboy Bebop started in 1998 and became very popular.
People loved its cool looks, interesting characters, and great music. This song is played with a big band jazz style. It tells you about the bounty hunters on the Bebop spaceship. They travel around the universe to catch bad guys.
The music mixes big band jazz with strong jazz beats. You can also hear energetic Latin percussion like congos and bongos. The song has a strong beat and a cool saxophone solo that's very catchy.
The brass section with the trumpets, trombones, and euphonium makes it sound even bigger and better. The fast music makes you want to move.
In this performance, we will have a solo by Sammy on the bass guitar.
And Macy on the trumpet, so listen closely for this.
Once again, this is Tank by Yoko Kanno. everybody. My name is Eduardo, and I play the trumpet, and Valar Morghulis. If you don't know what that is, it's from the TV show called Game of Thrones, which is incidentally the name of our next piece. Game of Thrones is from the popular TV show Game of Thrones by HBO. It was composed by Ramin Djawadi and was arranged by Jay Bakuk. Composed from the years 2011 and 2018, this piece includes multiple songs from the show, such as the main theme, what you hear at the beginning of every episode, and The Winds of Winter, The Rains of Castamere, and the finale. Each song in this piece has its own style, and each song has an element of each story from the show in its said style. Like in the main theme, it tells the story of Game of Thrones, and in The Reigns of Castamere, it shows the rivalries in the houses and families within the show. And yes, some of the styles are more suspicious and more grand and ominous. And we have multiple solos and solis, which is basically two people playing at once, with the French horns, euphoniums, bassoon, and the tenor. And if you enjoy the show, I hope you really love this, because I also love this show, and I hope we play it well for you. Please enjoy.
quietly getting onto the bleachers, I'd just like to congratulate our graduating students. So when I say your name, can you please give the audience a wave? Haley Dennis. Give them a wave, Haley. Hi, Haley. McKenna Sumner. Hi, McKenna. Jamero Antilan. Where's Jamero? Hi, Jamero. And NACI Kilburn. We've got Trent Tomanico. Wait up. Sammy Oyevado. Austin Lewis. And Sarah Thompson. Back there. We're so proud of you. So for our graduating students, I just hope that you know that music is a lifelong thing, and that even outside these walls, I hope that you keep on being part of music forever. It's the best. Our first piece for senior band is Homeward Bound, composed by Jack Tromby. Some of you may recognize this tune from the famous movie Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Anyone know that movie out there? We got some fans, maybe? Okay. So this is the piece that made me want to be a brass player.
I would just like to say thank you on behalf of everyone here, because you just started and you're already doing so good, and you've made you've made everyone's year so special, especially our grade 12s. You've made us so memorable, and we just want to say thank you, and we love you so much, and we're just as proud of you as you are of us.
I don't know if you know this, but your kids are awesome. And I love my job. Thanks, everyone.